it's just like to give me a little bit of kickback so I can actually afford to live in Melbourne, one of the most expensive cities in the world. And the issue is that the only options in Australia is to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world if you want to do schooling. And honestly, the options are very limited. So you either have to be in Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra. I don't even think you can go anywhere else if you want to do schooling. And these are the three most expensive cities in Australia. Like, in Canberra, it's its own little bubble economy because it's just all public servants who are getting paid so much. So it's like a mining town, just instead of mining being the thing that's paying everyone, it's just like the public services, the government paying all these people, right? So there's the bubble economy of Canberra, so everything is much higher than it should be, and then there's the like Melbourne is just so big and there's so many people. It's the same as Sydney. Melbourne and Sydney are just so big, so many people like migrating to these cities that there is nothing like housing wise that is available because there's more people coming in than there is people going, and they're not building any more infrastructure. Like yes, there's all these like huge apartment buildings that are being built, but they're all like absurdly expensive and they're all like all inclusive packages and all this other like random. I can't swear. I'm not gonna swear. That's something that I'm working on. Not as a like a New Year's resolution, just in a general thing. But yeah, so there's like these economies that are all like overly priced for everything, and it's not fair, you know? Like it's almost like a curse of being born in Australia that you're never going to be able to afford a house. You're never going to be able to do anything with your life here. But like you can always so Australia is a good place if you're born to get skills and accrue all these things, but it's very unlikely that you'll ever be able to get very far with it. So you look at a place like America, for example, like take away like healthcare and all that other stuff. If you're overall, there is cities across America where it's not that expensive. Yes, there's the public transport's probably just as bad as Australia, but it's like you have options, and there's lots of big cities. Like you go Houston, you go, well, pretty much any of the big cities in Texas, like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. Where does Joe Rogan? What's the other one? I don't remember. But you guys get what I mean, right? Like there's so many different options of things that you can do over there. Whereas in Australia there is no options. There is no choice. Like you can't actually like do anything that you want to do. Like you're stuck in this kind of trap where it's hard to breathe, it's hard to get out. Like at least in a place like Japan, right? If you live out in Whoop Whoop, it's a 2 hour train into the city, right? You can commute from almost anywhere in Japan to any of the like if you lived in like Shizuoka, for example, like near Atami, you could you get to Osaka or you could get to Tokyo in about so Tokyo would be an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on whether or not you got the bullet train. So it'd be like 2 hours into Tokyo, no bullet train, and it would be like 4 hours into Osaka, no bullet train. And the time's just half if you get the bullet train. It's because it's not. It's like if you lived in one of like those places, you could buy a house for a reasonable price. You could be working in the city, right? Taiwan, for example, yes, it's this tiny island that is like smaller than Tasmania, right? But if you're living somewhere that isn't Taipei or isn't like Kaohsiung or Taichung, like you can set up your life in anywhere outside of that, and the high speed rail connects the whole country, right? Like you can get from one end to the other in like an hour, bro. Do you understand? It takes an hour to get from one end of the country to the other end of the country. It's insanity, okay? Like in Australia, you got to get a plane, you got to go through well, not customs, but the security checks and everything, and it takes you longer on the ground than in the air. Like it's a 30-minute flight from Canberra to Sydney. The only other option is to drive, which is like 4 hours, and as soon as you hit Sydney, you better hope that you're not going in peak hour because you're never getting into the city. You'll be stuck there for an extra 4 hours. It's like an 8 hour drive if you get caught in the traffic. We don't have like a public transportation system in Australia, so there's lots of things that you can't really do. It's like Australia overall, good country, right? It's just impossible for young people to ever make any kind of headway here. Because young people are probably never going to buy a house. Young people are probably never going to get a high paying job, like, because it's all going to, like, this is like, yes, it's a very detrimentalist, like, ideology of the world, or like Australia, for example. But, like, the actual job opportunities are getting lower and lower and lower because there's more people coming in than there is jobs opening up. And if you're not part of like these specific groups, then you're a lot less likely to get a job, right? If you're not a part of the quota, you're probably not going to get an interview. And that's just how it is. But it is what it is. And I will still keep trying and being the best that I can be. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses, right? I'm just having an objective kind of look over Australia. Like, if I was an immigrant, I probably wouldn't want to come here because we do not have enough houses to like house the people who already live here. There's like slum shacks in Melbourne, right, where it's like 8 to 10 people living in like a 1 bedroom apartment. It's like a scary world we're living in. It's not. Well, it's like it's Australia is considered this land of dreams, right? But it's not. It probably was in like the earlier 2000s. But since COVID, the whole world's kind of started shifting and started becoming more and more detrimental to the people that aren't already ultra wealthy. Well, that was my tangent.